I attended cosmetology school a few years back, and one time we all went on a road trip to see a big show where they were going to show new hair and nail techniques and such. It was in a bigger city, a few hours away from where I was attending school. We all sort of divided into our own groups to get hotel rooms for the show to save money. So me and 3 other girls booked one hotel room to stay in together. After we checked into the hotel and got to our room, we were all pretty excited to have a sleepover before the hair and fashion show tomorrow. So we decided to go get some drinks and food. When we returned to the hotel an hour or so later, it was getting pretty late and a few of us were pretty tipsy, but we quietly headed to our room. I was sober, however, because at the time I was just about to turn 21, so I couldn't get a drink at the bar yet. We were all just hanging out in our room, planning the day tomorrow, when sometime after 11 p.m, our hotel room phone rang. It kind of startled us because I've stayed in hotels quite a few times, and I never remember my hotel phone ringing. I answered it and said hello. This was a few years ago, so I didn't remember the exact transcript of the conversation, but I will get close as I can. A man on the phone replied, saying we hadn't paid for our room and that one of us needed to come down into the lobby to pay the bill. Immediately the alarm bells went off in my head, because we had paid for the room. We had all pulled money and given it to Molly and watched her pay when we all checked in together. I don't think they would have given us room keys if we hadn't paid for the room. Plus, adding on the fact that even if something happened with the billing, it would be super unprofessional to call someone at 11 p.m. when they may be asleep. I replied that we had paid for the room and that if there was a problem with the billing that we could sort it out tomorrow morning. The man insists that just one of us must come down because our room isn't paid for and that we won't be allowed to stay the night if one of us doesn't come down right now and pay. And he sounded frustrated. Honestly, I'm a paranoid person, but the whole thing felt so wrong that there was no way I was letting any of us go down there to the lobby that night. I told him that we would be staying in our room until they came and removed us. This time, he sounds even more frustrated, insisting one of us must come down or there will be consequences. That was the last straw for me, as now I was sure something bad was happening. So I just hung up the phone and figured if this is really someone from the hotel, they will come up to our room or we'll deal with it tomorrow. Obviously, my classmates in the room with me were like, what the hell was that? I said I got a really bad feeling from the dude and explained to them what happened. Thankfully, they all agreed that we had paid and it was basically unheard of for a hotel front desk to call you in your room past 11 p.m. So we were a bit on edge and eventually fell asleep. No one came to kick us out. The next morning, as we went to check out, we asked the person working at the front desk what the call last night was about and if we needed to make payment. They had no idea what we were talking about and they insisted that the front desk would have not called us at that late of an hour. We all sort of just looked at each other and we were extremely freaked out, so we just sort of left quickly after that. I forgot about this pretty quickly after it happened, since nothing bad actually happened. But thinking back on this now, it seems so scary. Who called us and why did they want one of us to come down to the lobby alone in the middle of the night? How did they know what room we were in? Honestly, the more I think about it, the more creeped out I get. Anyway, I'm very glad none of us went down into the lobby that night. This story takes place around 2013. Me and a couple of my buddies were on a vacation in Johannesburg, South Africa. It was our last weekend there. We were no strangers to the Mzansi club life, so when we decided to hit a club called Landlords in Johannesburg, we expected a good vibe as usual. We finally arrived at the club through an Uber. The club was mostly packed with students, as I recently found out that Braamfontein was filled with colleges and student accommodation, so Landlords was pretty much their spot. Anyway, the club is situated right at the top of the building, so to get there, you had to first pass through bouncers at the elevator. They would then tap down the floor that you had to get off, just to avoid people getting lost in the wrong floors, as each floor had a different company running. I know, weird. That's why big events were only held on weekends and other floors were blocked. We were in the elevator with 4 other people, one being a girl. We introduced ourselves and told them we were from the UK and that it was our last night there. The 3 gents offered us a round of beer and offered us a seat in their VIP section. The night continued as officially the best night of our lives. At 3 a.m, we decided it was time to leave. We said farewell to our new friends, exchanged contact information and went on our way. At the entrance of the elevator, there were no bouncers. which made sense because we were already at the top, so there was no need to confirm if we had paid or not. The only problem, however, was that we didn't know which floor to click. Our pretty drunk selves just guessed and pressed any button. We were so drunk out of our heads that we pretty much just laughed it off and started talking about something else. Around 10 seconds later, the elevator door popped. As you might have already guessed, it was the wrong floor. It looked abandoned and slightly dark as there was light coming in from the window. Me and my friend decided to take a small stroll since it was our last day there and we wanted to experience as much as we could. Two of our other friends decided to stay behind and trap the door. We had just only taken 6 steps through when I noticed what looked like 3 silhouettes crunching right at the corner of the room, next to what looked like piles of chairs on top of one another. I whispered to my buddy Chase that we needed to go. He was a bit hesitant until he turned around to face me. That's when he noticed the figures. I think he had gotten the hint because he immediately pretended like he didn't see anything. I noticed how the blood on his face dropped after seeing them, as we were still exposed to the little light shining from the elevator. We quickly walked back, looking behind us. Our friends saw the panic on our faces and kept asking what happened as they laughed at us. It literally felt like forever when the elevator doors were closing. I kept thinking they might charge at us. Once the doors closed behind us, we heard some banging from the opposite side. We all went into complete panic mode until we were taken back to the top floor. We never said a word, we just looked for anyone at the club who could assist us in getting the right floor. We ran into a VIP bouncer who offered to assist us. The ride down was so silent, I think we were all praying for it to not stop at that floor again. When we reached the exit floor, my buddy Chase sighed in relief. It was as if he was holding his breath this entire time. He immediately said,
"Dude, did you fucking see that?"
I think I was still in shock because I didn't respond. It was up until he mentioned that there was a 4th person laying on the ground. It looked like they were tied up. It made sense that I didn't see much because I immediately looked away when I noticed the 3 figures. The Uber finally arrived and we decided to report the matter by calling the cops. We eventually got to our hotel room and immediately slept, got up after sunrise and went for lunch at the airport and caught a flight back to the UK. We never got feedback from the cops though. We do not know what these 3 men were doing or did to the person they tied up, and I'm glad we didn't stay to find out. Was studying abroad in Thailand and went with a friend to an island called Koh Samui for the weekend. Soon after checking into our dinky hotel, we rented 2 motorbikes and cruised around the island, quickly getting lost on the back roads, no big deal. We found a little tiki bar and drank the night away, thinking we'll figure out how to get home eventually. Fast forward to about midnight, we've drank enough that motorbiking back to wherever the hell we came from suddenly seems like a good idea. It's an island, right? Who gets lost on an island? So we set back in the general direction of the hotel. After about an hour of zigzagging around dirt roads, we passed something that smelled terrible and I turned back to make a sour face at my friend. In a flash, I went off the side of the road and smashed the motorbike off an embankment, then into what I assume was a swamp of the town's sewage. By the time I realized what happened, I was almost fully submerged and trying to account for my body parts, let alone wipe my face and mouth clear of revolting slush. I scrambled out, scratched, bruised and shamed, but all in one piece. The motorbike was stuck half submerged, so we yanked it out and somehow got it running again, then limped back toward our hotel. We eventually made it back to the hotel, must have been at least 3 a.m. I stunk of crap and had a plethora of scratches and bruises that had been marinating in for over an hour, so I sprinted to the hotel room and showered like my life depended on it. After a few minutes of obsessive scrubbing, I emerged to an empty room, no friend in sight. So I went over to my suitcase to get dressed and looked for him. It was practically empty, save a few t-shirts and underwear. Strange. Went for my backpack, nowhere in sight. My friend's backpack, not there. We were robbed. Frantically, I threw on a shirt and underwear and ran outside to find my friend, banging on the door to the lobby, already aware that our stuff was missing. Feeling drunk and somewhat hungover, and violated in multiple ways, I sprinted over and joined him, banging and throwing rocks at the window until somebody responded and helped us report the crime. Before long, an old Thaiman, I think was Mr. Miyagi, poked his head around from the corner of the building. We yelled for his attention and he darted away. We chased. He reappeared, this time wielding a machete. We let out a massive "holy crap" and he shouted something in Thai. Then we bolted as far as we could from the property, running until we were absolutely certain that he couldn't find us. Not sure if he even chased. We ended up far away at another beach resort, me Winnie the Pooh in my t-shirt and underwear, and my friend Cross from a long day of motorbiking and swamp wading, and had no idea what to do. We had no hotel, no passports, no clothes, and our wallets and phones were back at the recently robbed hotel, where a little old man was waiting for us with his machete. Defeated, we passed out on a resort's beach chairs and allowed the mosquitoes to feast on our helpless bodies until the sun rose. In the morning, we limped back to the hotel, snuck into the room and grabbed all that was left of our possessions. Thankfully, it wasn't robbed twice. Our wallets were safe. I bought a bathing suit to wear over my underwear, and we swiftly got the fuck out of that miserable little hell realm of an island. And to this day, it remains my most horrible travel experience, as well as one of my favorite stories.